June 1971. The Madison Square Garden erupted with a deafening roar as Muhammad Ali fell to the canvas for the final time that night. Joe Frazier had just handed Ali his first professional defeat, and with it shattered the myth of the unbeatable champion. Ali lay there for what felt like an eternity, the bright lights above blinding him momentarily before he forced himself to his feet. The referee raised Frazier's hand, and Ali, his face swollen beyond recognition, limped back to his corner with what dignity he could muster. "Still think you're the greatest?" a reporter shouted at him as he made his way through the tunnel cameras, flashing mercilessly in his face. Ali said nothing, the silence more deafening than any of his famous proclamations had ever been. "Before I continue, I need to ask you something. This channel only exists because of you. You are important to me, and I know you value stories told with soul. If you feel something genuine just from this beginning, subscribe now. Seriously, it costs you nothing, but means everything to me who creates each story with love." Back in his hotel room, Ali stared at his reflection in the bathroom mirror, barely recognizing the man who stared back. 33. Stitches would be needed to close the cuts on his face. His jaw, though not broken, throbbed with pain that radiated through his entire skull. But the physical pain paled in comparison to what was happening inside him. "They're saying it's over for you," his trainer Angelo Dundee said quietly from the doorway. "The papers tomorrow, they won't be kind." Ali nodded, still staring at his battered reflection. He had lost before to the United States government when they stripped him of his title for refusing the draft in '67, taking away 3.5 years of his prime. But that had been different. That had been a stand on principle, something he could hold on to with pride, even as it cost him millions of dollars and the heavyweight crown. This loss was different. This was about his body failing him, about another man proving better in the ring, the one place where Ali had always reigned supreme. The following months brought what Ali would later call the wilderness years. The boxing world that had once hung on his every word now dismissed him as a has-been. The same journalists who had chronicled his rise now wrote his professional obituary. Endorsement deals dried up. Financial troubles mounted. His entourage thinned out, fair-weather friends suddenly finding reasons to be elsewhere. By early 1972, the man once known as the greatest found himself facing bankruptcy. The tax authorities circled like vultures over what remained of his fortune. His lavish Louisville home went up for sale. The fleet of cars dwindled to just one. The suits were replaced by simple sweaters and slacks. The diamonds disappeared from his fingers. One rainy afternoon, Ali sat alone, in the small apartment he now called home, flipping through a scrapbook of newspaper clippings, yellowed testaments to former glory. The phone hadn't rung in days. Outside, the world had moved on, crowning new champions, celebrating new heroes. "What now?" he whispered to the empty room. For the first time since he was a skinny kid from Louisville named Cassius Clay, Muhammad Ali found himself without a fight to prepare for, without a purpose to drive him forward. That evening, a knock came at his door. Angelo Dundee stood in the hallway, soaked from the rain, a determined look on his weathered face. "Get your gear," Angelo said without preamble. "We start tomorrow." "Start what?" Ali asked, genuine confusion in his voice. "Your comeback," Angelo replied, as if it were the most obvious thing in the world. "Unless you're planning to sit here feeling sorry for yourself for the rest of your life." Ali felt a flicker of his old fire. "Who's going to want to see a washed-up fighter?" Angelo smiled. "You're not washed up. You're Muhammad Ali, and I've got you a fight. If this story has already made you feel something, no matter how small, don't leave without giving back." Comment and subscribe now. The opponent was Jerry Quarry, a solid contender Ali had beaten before. The venue was nothing like the glittering arenas of Ali's heyday, just a half-filled auditorium in Las Vegas where the spotlights flickered and the ring ropes sagged slightly in the middle. The purse was a fraction of what Ali had once commanded, barely enough to begin addressing his mounting debts. During the pre-fight press conference, the questions were brutal. Ali, why put yourself through this? Don't you think it's time to accept? It's over. How does it feel to be a sideshow now instead of the main event? One particularly cutting question came from a young reporter with a sneer on his face. My editor says to ask if the real Muhammad Ali died in that ring with Frazier. And this is just his ghost? The old Ali would have fired back with poetry and prediction, turning the tables on his critics with wit sharp enough to draw blood. This new Ali simply said, "Watch the fight. Just watch the fight." The morning of the bout, Ali found himself trending in the newspapers again, but not in the way he once had. Ali's last stand, one headline proclaimed. Fallen champion refuses to stay down, said another, more charitable, but no less damning. The Las Vegas bookmakers had him as a 5-1 underdog against a man he'd previously dispatched with ease. In the locker room, preparing for the fight, Ali was unnaturally quiet. Gone was the braggadocio, the verbal sparring with reporters, the playful taunting of his opponent. In its place was a focused silence that unsettled even Angelo. "You all right, champ?" Angelo asked as he wrapped Ali's hands. Ali nodded. "I'm good. Just thinking about something my grandfather told me when I was a boy." "What's that?" He said, "When a man has nothing left to lose, that's when he's most dangerous." I never really understood that until now. The ring announcement lacked the electricity of Ali's prime. Polite applause greeted his name with a smattering of boos from those who still resented his anti-war stance. As the bell rang for round one, Ali moved forward with purpose. But something was different. The famous dancing style, the floating like a butterfly, was subdued. Instead, Ali planted his feet more, conserving energy, fighting like a man with a plan, rather than a showman with an audience to please. Through 5 rounds, the fight was close, with Quarry landing solid shots and Ali responding in kind. But in the 6th, something shifted. Ali's timing, which had seemed just a hair off, suddenly clicked into place. His jab, always his best weapon, began finding its home with increasing frequency. By the 8th round, Quarry's face was marked up, his confidence visibly eroding. In his corner before the 10th round, Angelo whispered, "He's ready. Go get him." The old fire returned to Ali's eyes. "Watch this," he said. Round 10 began with Ali moving with renewed energy, as if he'd been holding something in reserve all along. Quarry, sensing the change, pressed forward aggressively, hoping to overwhelm the older fighter. For 30 seconds, they exchanged blows at the center of the ring, each landing, neither giving ground. Then came the moment. Quarry threw a looping right hand that missed by inches. Ali, instead of backpedaling as he might have in his younger days, pivoted slightly and launched a straight right hand that traveled no more than 12 inches. The punch landed flush on Quarry's chin with such perfect timing and precision that the sound could be heard over the crowd's roar. Quarry's legs buckled instantly, his eyes rolling back as he collapsed to the canvas like a marionette with cut strings. The referee didn't even bother to count. The knockout was as definitive as any in boxing history. The crowd, which had been divided in its loyalties, rose as one in stunned appreciation. Ali stood in the neutral corner, chest heaving, watching as medical personnel attended to Quarry. There was no dancing, no showboating, just the quiet satisfaction of a craftsman who had executed his art to perfection. In the post-fight interview, a subdued Ali spoke with a clarity and humility that surprised many who had followed his career. "People ask why I keep fighting," he said, sweat still glistening on his face. "It's simple. This is what I was born to do. When they took my title without beating me in the ring, they took my identity. When I lost to Frazier, I lost my confidence. But tonight, with that one punch, I found myself again. And I'm not done yet. The comeback had officially begun, but it was more than just a sporting redemption. Something fundamental had shifted. In Ali, the brash young champion who had conquered the world had been replaced by something more complex. A man who had tasted defeat, faced ruin, and found the strength to rebuild himself from the ground up. The press, which had been writing his professional obituary just days earlier, now crafted a new narrative, the resurrection of Muhammad Ali. The single punch that had felled Quarry became symbolic of Ali's refusal to stay down, a physical manifestation of his indomitable spirit. Offers began to pour in, exhibition bouts, television appearances, even movie roles. The financial hole began to fill, slowly at first, then more rapidly as Ali strung together more victories. But money wasn't the primary motivation anymore. What drove Ali now was a deeper purpose, a desire to reclaim not just his former glory, but to define what that glory meant on his own terms. By 1974, Ali had fought his way back to title contention. His opponent would be George Foreman, the fearsome champion who had destroyed Joe Frazier, the very man who had handed Ali his most significant defeat. The fight would take place in Kinshasa, Zaire, the famous Rumble in the Jungle. No one gave Ali a chance. Foreman was younger, stronger, seemingly invincible. The odds were 7-1 against Ali, the same Ali who had once been the most feared heavyweight on the planet. The mockery that had followed his fall from grace had quieted, but never completely disappeared. There were still those who claimed he was fighting for money alone, that his skills were diminished, that he would be not just defeated, but hurt by the devastating puncher Foreman. Ali, now 32 years old in a young man's game, seemed unconcerned by the predictions of doom. At the press conference, glimpses of the old Ali emerged, playful, poetic, provocative. But those close to him noticed something different beneath the familiar exterior. A steely resolve. A man who had made peace with his past and was fully present in the moment. In the locker room before the fight, Ali sat quietly as Angelo wrapped his hands. "What are you thinking about, champ?" Angelo asked, echoing their conversation before the Quarry fight. Ali smiled. "About how everything in life happens for a reason. Losing my title for standing up for what I believe. Losing to Frazier when I thought I was invincible. Losing all my money when I thought it would last forever." He flexed his wrapped hand, making a fist. "Every loss taught me something I needed to know for tonight." When Ali stepped into the ring in Kinshasa, he carried with him not just the hopes of those who had remained loyal through his darkest days, but also the weight of his own reinvention. This was more than a championship fight. It was the final chapter of a redemption story years in the making. The fight itself has become boxing legend. How Ali employed the rope-a-dope strategy, allowing the stronger Foreman to punch himself into exhaustion against Ali's arms and gloves. How Ali endured thunderous blows that would have felled lesser men. How in the 8th round, with Foreman finally tiring, Ali sprang from the ropes with a lightning combination, culminating in a right hand reminiscent of the one that had dropped Quarry 2 years earlier. When Foreman hit the canvas and failed to beat the count, Ali had completed what many consider the greatest comeback in sports history. The man who had lost everything, his title, his fortune, his reputation, was now once again the heavyweight champion of the world. In the ring after the fight, as the belt was placed around his waist, Ali looked out at the sea of celebrating faces and said simply, "I told you all that I was the greatest of all time when you didn't want to believe me. Then I lost everything and you mocked me. Now I stand before you again as champion, and I tell you this: the greatest glory isn't in never falling, but in rising every time we fall. Years later, reflecting on his career, Ali would point to that period, from the Frazier loss through the Quarry knockout to the Foreman victory, as the time when he truly understood what it meant to be the greatest. It wasn't about being undefeated or untouchable. It was about finding the courage to keep fighting when everyone else has counted you out. About throwing that one perfect punch, not just against your opponent, but against doubt, against fear, against the limitations others try to place upon you. In the end, Muhammad Ali's greatest victory wasn't over Sonny Liston or George Foreman or any other man he faced in the ring. It was over the adversity that might have broken a lesser spirit, the personal, financial, and professional setbacks that threatened to rewrite his legacy. With courage, determination, and one perfectly timed right hand, Ali rewrote the story, himself proving once and for all why the name Muhammad Ali would forever be synonymous with greatness. If you made it this far and felt every word, don't leave without subscribing, okay? I tell these stories with my heart on my sleeve to reach people like you, who feel, who get emotional, who truly live. If this touched you for real, give back, comment, subscribe. Come be part of this family with me until the next video.